The ghosts of Alcatraz. Spirits of the Rock Alcatraz Island, often referred to as the Rock, sits ominously in the cold waters of San Francisco Bay. Its storied past is shrouded in mystery, violence, and, many believe, restless spirits. Before becoming one of the most infamous federal penitentiaries, Alcatraz served various roles, each contributing to its grim reputation. The island's dark history began long before the penitentiary's construction. Native American tribes in the region spoke of Alcatraz as a place of evil spirits. They believed it to be cursed, and their oral traditions warned of the malevolent entities that inhabited the rocky island. These tales, though often dismissed as mere legends, seem to have foreshadowed the island's sinister future. In 1850, President Millard Fillmore ordered Alcatraz to be set aside for military use. The US Army built a fortress and began using the island as a military prison during the Civil War. The first prisoners to inhabit Alcatraz were Confederate sympathizers and privateers, and the harsh conditions they endured set the tone for the island's use as a place of punishment. The isolated, desolate environment made it an ideal location to house those the government wished to keep far from public view. The transformation of Alcatraz into a federal penitentiary began in 1934. The United States Penitentiary, Alcatraz Island, was designed to incarcerate the most dangerous and notorious criminals of the time. It was meant to be escape-proof, a fortress where the country's most incorrigible inmates would be held under the strictest conditions. The penitentiary's reputation grew as it housed infamous criminals like Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, and Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz. Life at Alcatraz was harsh and unforgiving. Inmates were subjected to strict discipline and a regimented daily schedule. The penitentiary's design emphasized security and control, with gun galleries, guard towers, and an elaborate system of bars and gates. Inmates spent up to 23 hours a day in their small, claustrophobic cells, with little to no contact with the outside world. The constant isolation and the oppressive atmosphere took a toll on their mental health, leading many to despair and insanity. The prison's harsh conditions and brutal disciplinary measures led to numerous escape attempts, though few were successful. One of the most infamous escape attempts occurred in 1946, known as the Battle of Alcatraz. 6 inmates overpowered guards and took control of parts of the prison. The ensuing standoff lasted for 2 days and resulted in the deaths of 2 guards and 3 inmates. The incident only reinforced the penitentiary's reputation as a place of extreme danger and hopelessness. Despite its reputation for being escape-proof, the island saw several daring escape attempts over the years. Perhaps the most famous occurred in 1962, when Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin managed to escape from their cells and disappear into the frigid waters of San Francisco Bay. Their fate remains unknown, adding another layer of mystery to Alcatraz's already eerie history. The penitentiary was finally closed in 1963 due to high operating costs and deteriorating infrastructure. However, the end of its use as a prison did not mark the end of Alcatraz's dark legacy. Many believe that the spirits of those who suffered and died on the island still linger, trapped by the island's malevolent force. Visitors to Alcatraz today report experiencing a wide array of paranormal activities. Cold spots, unexplained noises, and eerie feelings of being watched are common occurrences. Some claim to hear the clinking of chains, the disembodied whispers of former inmates, and the ghostly cries of those who perished during their time on the island. One of the most haunted locations on Alcatraz is Cell Block D, also known as the Hole. This section of the prison was reserved for the most unruly and dangerous inmates who were often subjected to extreme isolation and deprivation. Inmates confined to the Hole reported feeling an oppressive presence and hearing strange noises echoing through the dark, damp corridors. Some even claimed to have seen shadowy figures lurking in the corners of their cells. In cell 14D, considered the most haunted cell in the block, prisoners reported an overwhelming sense of dread and unease. One notorious tale involves an inmate in the 1940s who screamed throughout the night that he was being attacked by a creature with glowing eyes. The next morning, guards found him dead, his face frozen in a mask of terror. No cause of death was ever determined, and his death remains one of Alcatraz's most chilling mysteries. The utility corridor, where the 1946 Battle of Alcatraz reached its bloody climax, is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Visitors and staff have reported seeing apparitions of guards and inmates reenacting the violent struggle. The sounds of gunfire and desperate shouts can sometimes be heard echoing through the corridor, as if the tragic events of that day are eternally imprinted on the island. The prison hospital is also believed to be haunted by the spirits of those who died there. Former inmates and visitors have reported hearing phantom footsteps, the clinking of medical instruments, and the groans of patients in pain. The hospital's oppressive atmosphere and the lingering scent of antiseptic only add to the sense of unease that permeates the area. Alcatraz's shower room, where inmates were subjected to humiliating and degrading conditions, is another area rife with paranormal activity. Cold drafts, unexplained water drips, and the feeling of being watched have been reported by those who dare to enter. The oppressive energy in the shower room is a stark reminder of the suffering endured by the prisoners. The warden's house, now in ruins, was once the residence of the prison's wardens and their families. Despite its relatively comfortable accommodations, the house is not immune to the island's haunted reputation. Visitors have reported seeing ghostly figures in the windows, hearing phantom footsteps on the stairs, and experiencing sudden drops in temperature. The ghost of a former warden is said to roam the house, still overseeing his domain even in death. The most famous ghost associated with Alcatraz is undoubtedly that of Al Capone. After being transferred to Alcatraz in 1934, Capone's health deteriorated, and he spent much of his time in the prison hospital. He was also allowed to play his banjo in the prison showers to avoid being attacked by fellow inmates. Visitors and staff have reported hearing the faint sounds of a banjo playing long after Capone's death, echoing through the empty halls of the prison. Today, Alcatraz Island is a popular tourist destination, drawing thousands of visitors each year who are eager to explore its dark history and encounter its ghostly inhabitants. Guided tours take visitors through the prison's many haunted hotspots, where they can experience firsthand the eerie atmosphere that pervades the island. Despite its closure as a penitentiary, Alcatraz remains a place of suffering and despair. The spirits of former inmates, guards, and military personnel are said to linger, trapped by the island's malevolent force. Paranormal investigators have conducted numerous investigations on Alcatraz, capturing compelling evidence of ghostly activity. EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, shadow figures, and unexplained lights have all been documented, adding to the island's reputation as one of the most haunted places in America. Visitors to Alcatraz often leave with chilling stories of their own. Many report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and unease, as if they are being watched by unseen eyes. Some have even claimed to have been touched or pushed by invisible hands. These experiences only serve to reinforce the belief that Alcatraz is a place where the line between the living and the dead is dangerously thin. Despite its haunted reputation, Alcatraz also serves as a poignant reminder of the human capacity for resilience and survival. The stories of those who were incarcerated on the island, their struggles and their perseverance, are a testament to the indomitable human spirit. As visitors walk through the dark corridors and claustrophobic cells, they are not only stepping into a world of ghosts and shadows, but also into a powerful narrative of endurance and fortitude. In the end, the ghosts of Alcatraz serve as both a warning and a reminder. They are a warning of the darkness that can reside within the human soul and a reminder of the suffering that can be inflicted when power is unchecked. But they are also a reminder that even in the darkest of places, there can be light, and that the human spirit can endure even the most harrowing of circumstances. As you leave the island and the haunting silhouette of Alcatraz fades into the distance, the stories of the spirits that linger there continue to echo in your mind. The ghosts of Alcatraz are not just tales of the past. They are a living, breathing part of the island's legacy, forever haunting the cold, dark corridors of the Rock. Cell Block D, known as the Hole, was the most feared area in Alcatraz. It housed the prison's solitary confinement cells, where inmates were sent for the most severe punishments. These cells were dark, cold, and isolated from the rest of the prison, creating an atmosphere of utter despair. Many prisoners who entered the Hole left it deeply traumatized, if they left at all.
The haunted church with a ghost. The old St. Agnes Church stood at the edge of town, a looming silhouette against the darkened sky. Built in the late 1800s, it was once a place of solace and community. However, over the years, the church had fallen into disrepair, abandoned and forgotten. Locals whispered about eerie lights flickering in the stained glass windows at night and the faint sound of an organ playing when no one was inside. Despite its dilapidated state, the church maintained an aura of grandeur with its towering spire and intricate Gothic architecture. Legend had it that the church was haunted by the ghost of Father O'Malley, a priest who had mysteriously vanished one stormy night. Parishioners recalled his kind demeanor and dedication to the church, but something had changed in the weeks leading up to his disappearance. He became reclusive, often seen muttering to himself as if in conversation with an unseen presence. The townsfolk believed that he had been driven mad by a malevolent spirit that now kept him trapped within the church's walls. Those brave enough to approach the church at night reported hearing whispered prayers and footsteps echoing through the empty halls. Encounter with the supernatural one evening. A group of curious teenagers decided to explore the haunted church. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, they made their way through the overgrown path leading to the entrance. As they pushed open the heavy wooden doors, a chill swept through them, and the musty scent of decay filled the air. The interior of the church was a stark contrast to its exterior. Pews were overturned, cobwebs draped the altar, and dust motes danced in the beams of their flashlights. Despite the obvious signs of abandonment, an eerie sense of presence permeated the space. The group split up to cover more ground, each member feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. As one of them approached the altar, they noticed a flickering light emanating from the organ pipes. Intrigued, they moved closer, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Suddenly, a figure appeared, shrouded in a tattered robe, its face hidden in shadow. The teenager froze, unable to move or scream. The ghostly figure raised its hand, pointing towards the back of the church, where the confessional booths stood. The air grew colder, and the sense of dread intensified as the figure vanished, leaving the teenager shaken and desperate to find their friends.
Agnes Church was shrouded in an eerie silence, broken only by the creaking of the old wooden floorboards as the group cautiously explored. Dust particles floated in the beams of their flashlights, creating an ethereal, almost otherworldly atmosphere. The walls, once adorned with beautiful frescoes, were now cracked and faded, bearing silent witness to the church's tragic history. As the teenagers ventured deeper, the sense of an unseen presence grew stronger, making the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. In the sacristy, they discovered a hidden compartment behind a false panel. Inside, they found an ancient, leather-bound book covered in dust and cobwebs. Its pages were yellowed with age, filled with cryptic symbols and writings. This was no ordinary book, it was a tome of exorcisms and rituals, used to combat dark forces. One entry, in particular, stood out, a detailed ritual for banishing a powerful demon, describing it as a malevolent spirit that thrived on fear and despair. The realization dawned on them that this entity was the source of Father O'Malley's torment. Unveiling Father O'Malley's secret with the journal in hand, the group gathered in the nave, where they began to read Father O'Malley's final, harrowing entries. The once diligent and kind priest had chronicled his descent into madness as he battled the dark force that had taken hold of the church. His handwriting grew more frantic and illegible with each passing day, describing the whispers that filled his mind and the shadows that danced at the edge of his vision. He wrote about the malevolent presence that seemed to grow stronger, feeding on the fear and despair of the parishioners. The most chilling entry detailed his last night. A violent storm raged outside, and the church seemed to come alive with a dark energy. Father O'Malley recounted hearing the cries of tormented souls and seeing shadowy figures moving through the church. He attempted one final exorcism, but the entity's fury was unleashed upon him. His last words were a desperate plea for anyone who found the journal to continue his fight against the darkness. The teenagers felt a chill run down their spines as they realized the gravity of their discovery. They were now part of this battle against the malevolent force. The first supernatural encounter. As they continued to read, a sudden gust of cold wind swept through the church, extinguishing their flashlights. Panic set in as they scrambled to turn them back on, but the darkness was impenetrable. Then, from the depths of the shadows, the faint sound of an organ playing echoed through the church. The melody was haunting, filled with sorrow and despair. The teenagers froze, their breaths visible in the frigid air, as a ghostly figure materialized near the organ. It was Father O'Malley, his spectral form flickering like a candle in the wind. The ghostly priest raised a trembling hand, pointing towards the confessional booths. The group hesitated, but something compelled them to follow. As they approached the booths, the air grew colder, and a sense of dread filled their hearts. One of the teenagers reached out and opened the door to the booth where they had found the journal. Inside, the temperature dropped even further, and they felt an overwhelming sense of sorrow. Suddenly, the confessional booth door slammed shut, and the faint sound of whispered prayers filled the air. The haunting vision. The teenager inside the booth felt an intense pressure on their chest, as if an unseen force was squeezing the life out of them. Their friends pounded on the door, trying to free them, but it wouldn't budge. Just as they thought they couldn't endure it any longer, the door flew open, and they stumbled out, gasping for breath. The ghost of Father O'Malley stood before them, his eyes filled with sorrow and a silent plea for help. The group realized that the priest's spirit was not their enemy but a tormented soul seeking release from the church's dark grasp. Determined to help Father O'Malley find peace, they decided to perform the ritual described in the ancient book. The clock was ticking, and they knew they had to act quickly. They gathered the necessary items, a blessed cross, holy water, and a candle. As midnight approached, they prepared for the confrontation with the malevolent entity that held the church in its thrall.
As the teenagers continued to explore the decrepit church, they felt a growing sense of urgency. Father O'Malley's journal had revealed not only the presence of a malevolent spirit, but also detailed instructions for a ritual to banish it. They knew they had to act quickly before the entity grew stronger. The group gathered the necessary items for the ritual: a blessed cross, holy water, and an ancient book of exorcisms they found in a hidden compartment behind the altar. The storm outside intensified, with thunder echoing through the empty halls and lightning illuminating the dark corners of the church. The teenagers set up the ritual space in front of the altar, arranging candles in a precise pattern as described in the journal. Each movement was deliberate and filled with a mixture of fear and determination. They could feel the eyes of the church upon them, as if the building itself was watching their every move. The air grew colder, and the feeling of being watched became almost unbearable. As they lit the final candle, a chilling wind swept through the church, extinguishing some of the flames and causing the shadows to dance wildly on the walls. Suddenly, a low, guttural growl echoed through the church, sending shivers down their spines. The air grew even colder, and a thick fog began to seep from the corners of the room, slowly creeping towards the altar. The teenagers exchanged fearful glances, but steeled themselves for what was to come. They began to recite the incantations from the ancient book, their voices trembling but growing stronger with each word. As the incantation echoed through the church, the fog coalesced into a dark, swirling mass. Within it, the shadowy figure of the malevolent spirit began to take shape. Its eyes glowed with an unholy light, and a sinister smile twisted its ethereal face. The entity's presence was overwhelming, filling the church with a palpable sense of dread. The teenagers could feel their resolve wavering, but they knew they had to continue. The entity lashed out, causing the candles to flicker and the ground to tremble. It let out a bone-chilling scream that seemed to pierce the very fabric of reality. One of the teenagers, Sarah, stepped forward, holding the blessed cross high. "In the name of all that is holy, we command you to leave this place," she shouted, her voice firm and unwavering. The entity recoiled, its form flickering and distorting as if struggling against an invisible force. The group continued the incantation, their voices now a unified chorus of determination. Holy water was sprinkled on the ground, sizzling and evaporating upon contact with the dark fog. The entity's form grew more unstable, its sinister grin replaced by an expression of rage and desperation. It lashed out again, knocking over a few candles and sending the book flying from their hands. With a final, desperate shriek, the entity surged towards the group, its form now barely holding together. The air crackled with energy as the entity collided with the barrier formed by the blessed cross and the holy water. There was a blinding flash of light, and a powerful gust of wind swept through the church, extinguishing all the candles and plunging the room into darkness. When the light faded and their vision cleared, the teenagers found themselves standing in a silent, empty church. The oppressive weight that had filled the air was gone, replaced by a peaceful stillness. Father O'Alley's ghostly figure stood before them, a gentle smile on his face. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice echoing softly in the quiet. "You have freed this place and allowed me to find peace." With those final words, Father O'Alley's spirit faded into the light, leaving the group standing in the now serene church. The storm outside began to dissipate, and the first rays of dawn broke through the shattered stained glass windows. The teenagers looked at each other, relief and exhaustion evident on their faces. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. As they left the church, they knew that they would never forget this night. The haunting presence that had plagued St. Agnes Church was gone, and Father O'Alley's spirit was finally at rest. They had faced their fears and conquered the darkness, forever changing their lives. Determined not to let fear take over, the teenagers retrieved the book and resumed the ritual. Each word seemed to sap the entity's strength, causing it to wail in agony. Father O'Alley's ghostly figure appeared beside them, his once tormented visage now serene and filled with gratitude. He joined in the incantation, his voice blending with theirs in a harmonious chant.
The Highgate Vampire, a modern-day vampire panic in London. In the late 1960s, London was a city of contrasts, where ancient history met modern life in a chaotic blend of culture and tradition. Amid this bustling metropolis lay Highgate Cemetery, an iconic Victorian burial ground that had fallen into disrepair. The cemetery, with its overgrown foliage and crumbling tombstones, exuded an eerie charm that attracted local youths and paranormal enthusiasts alike. It was here, among the shadows of Highgate's Gothic architecture, that one of London's most chilling legends would be born, the Highgate Vampire. The story began in 1969, when reports of a mysterious figure lurking in the cemetery at night began to surface. Witnesses described seeing a tall, dark figure with hypnotic, glowing eyes that seemed to peer into their very souls. Some claimed it was a ghost, while others whispered of something far more sinister, a vampire. The media quickly picked up on these stories, and the legend of the Highgate Vampire began to spread like wildfire. Two figures would come to dominate the narrative: David Farrant and Sean Manchester, both self-proclaimed vampire hunters. Farrant, a member of the British Occult Society, claimed to have seen the entity himself and even conducted nocturnal vigils in the cemetery to capture photographic evidence. Manchester, on the other hand, declared that the creature was a genuine vampire and vowed to exterminate it. The rivalry between these two men added a human element to the legend, fueling public interest and media coverage. On Friday, the 13th of March, 1970, the legend reached its peak. Manchester announced that he would conduct an exorcism at Highgate Cemetery, inviting the public to witness the event. Hundreds of people, armed with makeshift stakes, garlic, and crucifixes, descended upon the cemetery. The police struggled to control the crowd, and the event became a media spectacle. Although no vampire was found that night, the frenzy only served to cement the legend in the public's imagination. Yet, the legend of the Highgate vampire was more than just a tale of supernatural terror. It was a reflection of the societal anxieties of the time. The 1960s were a period of great change in Britain, marked by cultural upheaval and a questioning of traditional values. The vampire, an age-old symbol of fear and otherness, resonated deeply with a public grappling with the uncertainties of the modern world. Highgate Cemetery, with its decaying grandeur, served as the perfect backdrop for these anxieties to manifest. The reports continued, and the legend grew. People claimed to find dead animals with their throats slit and bodies drained of blood, further fueling the vampire hysteria. It wasn't long before the cemetery became a hotspot for those fascinated by the macabre. Ghost hunters, thrill seekers, and even satanic cults were drawn to Highgate, each adding their own layer to the ever-growing mythos. As the 1970s progressed, the legend of the Highgate vampire showed no signs of waning. The cemetery's nocturnal visitors increased, driven by both curiosity and fear. Among them were David Farrant and Sean Manchester, whose rivalry had turned into a public spectacle. Each claimed to have the methods and knowledge to defeat the vampire, and their confrontations only added to the eerie atmosphere surrounding Highgate. Farrant conducted numerous vigils and rituals in the cemetery, often documenting his findings and experiences. One of his most famous encounters was with a shadowy figure that seemed to vanish into thin air as he approached. He captured photographs of what he believed were supernatural entities and published them, hoping to provide proof of the vampire's existence. Farrant's dedication to the hunt earned him a loyal following, but also skepticism and criticism from those who doubted his claims. Sean Manchester, on the other hand, took a more dramatic approach. He declared that the Highgate vampire was an undead aristocrat who had been brought to England in a coffin by followers of black magic. According to Manchester, this vampire had been awakened by the desecration of graves and occult practices in the cemetery. He claimed to have identified the vampire's resting place in a large, sinister tomb within Highgate's confines. In a highly publicized event, Manchester led a group of followers into the cemetery one night to confront the vampire. They descended into the tomb he had identified, finding it cold and filled with an overpowering stench. Inside, they claimed to have discovered a coffin containing a lifelike corpse. Manchester described how they drove a stake through the body's heart, performing an exorcism to banish the evil spirit. This dramatic account was widely reported in the media, though skeptics quickly dismissed it as a hoax or a publicity stunt. Despite these high-profile hunts, the sightings and strange occurrences continued. Visitors reported seeing ghostly apparitions, hearing disembodied voices, and feeling sudden drops in temperature. Some claimed that the vampire could mesmerize its victims, compelling them to do its bidding. These tales only heightened the fear and fascination surrounding Highgate, making it a notorious location for paranormal activity. The cemetery's atmosphere, already steeped in Victorian morbidity, became even more foreboding. The overgrown paths and leaning tombstones seemed to close in on visitors, creating a sense of impending doom. Nighttime explorations were particularly harrowing, with every rustle of leaves and snap of a twig sending shivers down the spine. Those brave enough to venture into the cemetery after dark often reported a feeling of being watched, as if unseen eyes followed their every move. The media played a significant role in perpetuating the legend. Newspapers, television programs, and radio shows all covered the Highgate vampire extensively, each adding their own sensationalist spin. This constant coverage ensured that the story remained in the public consciousness, turning Highgate Cemetery into a symbol of supernatural terror. As the years went by, the fervor surrounding the Highgate vampire gradually subsided, but the legend never truly disappeared. The cemetery remained a site of interest for paranormal investigators, thrill seekers, and tourists fascinated by its macabre history. Farrant and Manchester continued their rivalry for decades, each maintaining their version of the events and the creature they had hunted. Highgate Cemetery itself underwent restoration efforts in the 1980s and 1990s, transforming it from a decaying relic into a historical site open to the public. Despite the improvements, the eerie atmosphere persisted, and stories of ghostly sightings and unexplained phenomena continued to emerge. The legend of the Highgate vampire had become an indelible part of the cemetery's identity, forever entwined with its Victorian tombs and shadowy paths. In retrospect, the Highgate vampire saga can be seen as a convergence of folklore, media sensationalism, and societal anxiety. The figure of the vampire, steeped in centuries of myth and fear, provided a perfect outlet for the public's fascination with the supernatural. The involvement of Farrant and Manchester, with their dramatic hunts and public confrontations, added a human element that captured imaginations and kept the story alive. The events at Highgate also highlight the power of legend and belief. Whether or not a vampire truly stalked the cemetery is almost beside the point. The sightings, the hunts, and the media frenzy all contributed to a narrative that resonated deeply with people's fears and curiosities. Highgate Cemetery became a canvas upon which these fears were projected, creating a story that transcended its origins to become a modern myth. Today, visitors to Highgate Cemetery can take guided tours that explore its history and the famous individuals buried there. The guides often touch on the vampire legend, recounting the dramatic events of the 1970s with a mix of skepticism and intrigue. For many, the cemetery is a place of reflection on mortality and history, but for others, it remains a site of supernatural wonder and fear. As the sun sets and shadows lengthen, one can't help but feel the lingering presence of the Highgate vampire. The rustling leaves, the ancient tombs, and the silence of the night all combine to create an atmosphere of mystery and dread. The legend endures, inviting new generations to ponder the unknown and question what might lurk in the darkness. In the end, the Highgate vampire is more than just a ghost story. It is a testament to the enduring power of folklore and the human imagination. It reminds us that even in an age of science and reason, there are places where the supernatural feels tantalizingly close, and where the line between reality and myth blurs into shadow. So, the next time you find yourself walking past a dark cemetery, remember the story of the Highgate vampire, and wonder what might be watching you from the gloom. The Mystery of Oak Island. Welcome to the beginning of our journey into one of the most enduring mysteries of our time, the mystery of Oak Island. Our story begins in 1795, when a young boy named Daniel McGinnis discovered a mysterious depression on the ground on Oak Island, located off the coast of Nova Scotia, Canada. Intrigued by tales of buried treasure, Daniel and his friends began to dig, uncovering a layer of flagstones and then wooden platforms at intervals of 10 feet. This was the start of what would become a centuries-long quest to uncover the secrets hidden beneath Oak Island. As they dug deeper, they encountered more wooden platforms as well as layers of coconut fibers, a material not native to the region. This raised questions about who had gone to such lengths to bury something so deep and what it could be. The boys had to abandon their dig due to water flooding the pit, but their discovery sparked interest and speculation that continues to this day. In the early 19th century, several excavation attempts were made to reach the treasure. One of the earliest and most notable was the Onslow Company in 1804. They dug deeper into what became known as the Money Pit, discovering more wooden platforms and strange markings. However, each attempt was thwarted by flooding, leading to the hypothesis that the pit was booby-trapped. Theories about who could have built such an elaborate system range from pirates like Captain Kidd and Blackbeard to the Knights Templar, who were believed to have hidden treasures of immense value. Some even speculate that the pit could contain religious artifacts, like the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant. The quest for Oak Island's treasure has not been without its dangers. Over the years, the Money Pit has claimed several lives. In 1861, members of the Oak Island Association attempted to excavate the pit, only for the shaft to collapse, killing one worker. In subsequent years, other treasure hunters met with accidents, leading some to believe the pit was cursed. Despite the risks, the allure of potential riches kept adventurers coming. Each new expedition brought new technology and techniques, but the treasure, if it exists, remained elusive. According to legend, the Oak Island treasure will only be found when 7 men have died in the quest. This chilling prophecy has not deterred treasure hunters, but has added a layer of mystique to the island's story. As of today, 6 men have lost their lives in pursuit of the treasure, adding an eerie sense of foreboding to the search. The legend also speaks of strange lights seen over the island and eerie noises that have been reported by those who camped out there, adding to the island's haunted reputation. In the mid-20th century, the Restall family took up the challenge of unearthing the Oak Island treasure. Led by Robert Restall, they spent years excavating the pit and surrounding areas. They made several discoveries, including stone markers and carvings that seemed to point to something significant. Tragically, in 1965, Robert Restall, his son, and 2 other workers died in a tragic accident involving poisonous gas while working in one of the shafts. This marked one of the darkest days in the history of the Oak Island mystery and reinforced the island's dangerous reputation. In recent decades, modern technology has brought new hope to the search for Oak Island's treasure. The use of sonar, ground-penetrating radar, and other advanced tools has allowed treasure hunters to map the island's underground structures in greater detail than ever before. These technologies have revealed intriguing anomalies, such as large man-made chambers and tunnels deep underground. Some expeditions have also found artifacts, including old coins, metal fragments, and even a stone slab with mysterious symbols. Perhaps the most well-known modern-day treasure hunters are the Lagina brothers, Rick and Marty. Their quest, chronicled in the popular TV series The Curse of Oak Island, has brought renewed interest and resources to the search. The Laginas, along with their team, have made significant finds, including more stone markers, wooden structures, and even evidence of ancient human activity. Their meticulous approach and use of advanced technology have provided valuable insights into the possible origins of the Money Pit and its surrounding structures. The show has also introduced viewers to various historical documents and theories, keeping the mystery alive in popular culture. The search for the Oak Island treasure has led to numerous theories about who could have hidden something on the island and why. Some believe the treasure could be linked to the French crown jewels, hidden by fleeing aristocrats during the French Revolution. Others suggest it could be pirate booty, hidden by infamous pirates like Captain Kidd or Blackbeard. Another theory posits that the treasure could be related to the Knights Templar, who allegedly brought sacred artifacts to the New World to protect them from destruction. Some even suggest a connection to the mysterious and secretive Freemasons, pointing to symbols and structures on the island that resemble Masonic designs. In recent years, significant finds have continued to fuel the Oak Island mystery. Discoveries such as ancient coins, Metal artifacts and even human bones have provided tantalizing clues about the island's past. One of the most intriguing finds was a piece of parchment with writing on it, discovered in a drill core sample. This suggests that documents or books might be part of the buried treasure. The Lagina brothers team also found evidence of elaborate water channels and flood tunnels, supporting the theory that the money pit was ingeniously booby-trapped to prevent access. Despite centuries of searching, the mystery of Oak Island remains unsolved. The combination of historical intrigue, potential treasure, and the legend of the curse continues to captivate people worldwide. As technology advances and new discoveries are made, the hope of finally uncovering the island's secrets persists. The story of Oak Island is not just about treasure, it's about human perseverance, the thirst for adventure, and the quest for knowledge. Whether or not the ultimate treasure is ever found, the journey itself has become a treasure trove of history, legend, and intrigue. As we reach the conclusion of our journey into the depths of the Oak Island mystery, it's important to reflect on the enduring legacy of this fascinating tale. Over 2 centuries of exploration, countless lives have been touched by the allure of the island's secrets, from the young Daniel McGinnis to the modern-day efforts of the Lagina brothers and their dedicated team. As we reach the conclusion of our journey into the depths of the Oak Island mystery, it's important to reflect on the enduring legacy of this fascinating tale. Over 2 centuries of exploration, countless lives have been touched by the allure of the island's secrets, from the young Daniel McGinnis to the modern-day efforts of the Lagina brothers and their dedicated team. Despite the challenges, setbacks, and even tragedies that have marked the quest for the Oak Island treasure, the spirit of adventure and determination has never waned. Each generation of treasure hunters has contributed to our understanding of the island, uncovering new clues and pushing the boundaries of what we know about this enigmatic place. The discoveries made over the years, whether it's ancient coins, mysterious carvings, or evidence of complex underground structures, have only deepened the intrigue and fueled the imagination of those who dream of finally solving the mystery. The use of modern technology has brought us closer than ever to uncovering the truth, revealing tantalizing hints of what might lie beneath the surface. Yet the true treasure of Oak Island may not be gold or jewels. It lies in the stories, the camaraderie, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge that have defined the search. The island has become a symbol of the human spirit's unyielding quest for discovery, a testament to our innate desire to explore the unknown and uncover the mysteries of the past. As we stand on the threshold of the future, the mystery of Oak Island remains as compelling as ever. The quest continues, driven by the hope that one day the final piece of the puzzle will fall into place and the secrets of Oak Island will be revealed. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through history, legend, and adventure. While the treasure itself may still elude us, the legacy of Oak Island will endure, inspiring future generations to continue the search and keep the flame of curiosity burning bright. Despite the challenges, setbacks, and even tragedies that have marked the quest for the Oak Island treasure, the spirit of adventure and determination has never waned. Each generation of treasure hunters has contributed to our understanding of the island, uncovering new clues and pushing the boundaries of what we know about this enigmatic place. The discoveries made over the years, whether it's ancient coins, mysterious carvings, or evidence of complex underground structures, have only deepened the intrigue and fueled the imagination of those who dream of finally solving the mystery. The use of modern technology has brought us closer than ever to uncovering the truth, revealing tantalizing hints of what might lie beneath the surface. Yet, the true treasure of Oak Island may not be gold or jewels. It lies in the stories, the camaraderie, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge that have defined the search. Stay tuned for more tales of mystery, exploration, and the enduring human spirit. Until then, keep your sense of wonder alive and never stop seeking the unknown.
Eternal Night. Emily Hartley was a passionate young historian, always delving into ancient texts and forgotten manuscripts. Her fascination with history stemmed from a desire to understand the past and how it shaped the present. One evening, as she sifted through the archives of an old university library, she stumbled upon a peculiar manuscript. Bound in weathered leather and written in an archaic script, it seemed out of place among the more conventional historical documents. The manuscript, titled The Chronicles of the Shadow, immediately piqued her curiosity. It appeared to be a detailed account of significant historical events, but with a sinister twist. The author, whose name was nowhere to be found, wrote of a mysterious figure manipulating events from behind the scenes. Intrigued, Emily began to translate the text, her excitement growing with each passage. As she read, a pattern emerged. Wars, revolutions, and the rise and fall of empires. All had been subtly influenced by this shadowy figure. The manuscript described the manipulator as an ancient being, one who thrived on chaos and darkness. Emily's initial skepticism gave way to a gnawing sense of dread. Could this be the work of a madman? Or was there some truth to these fantastical claims? Determined to uncover more, Emily dedicated herself to the manuscript. Days turned into nights as she pored over the text, cross-referencing it with historical records. To her astonishment, she found corroborative evidence. Subtle details in the manuscript matched obscure facts about pivotal moments in history. The figure described in the manuscript seemed to possess an uncanny knowledge of future events, often appearing just before major disasters or conflicts. Emily's research led her to the name Alaric. The manuscript mentioned this name repeatedly, always in conjunction with the manipulations of the shadowy figure. She delved deeper into historical records, looking for any mention of an Alaric who could fit the description. Her efforts seemed fruitless until she stumbled upon an ancient legend from Eastern Europe, a tale of a vampire named Alaric who was said to have lived for centuries, leaving a trail of darkness in his wake. The legend described Alaric as a powerful vampire who thrived on chaos and death. According to the myth, Alaric had been a warrior prince who was turned into a vampire after a brutal betrayal. Consumed by vengeance and a thirst for power, he had used his newfound abilities to influence the course of history, always staying in the shadows. Emily's heart raced as she connected the dots. Could this vampire be the manipulator described in the manuscript? The implications were staggering. If Alaric were real, he could still be out there, orchestrating events to suit his dark purposes. Her mind reeled with the possibilities. She knew she had to find out more, even if it meant putting herself in danger. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Emily decided to travel to the region where the legend originated. She hoped to find more clues and perhaps even locate Alaric himself. Before leaving, she confided in her mentor, Professor Hawthorne, who shared her passion for history and the supernatural. Professor Hawthorne listened intently to Emily's findings. Though skeptical, he agreed that the manuscript was extraordinary. He cautioned her to be careful, warning that legends often had a grain of truth but could also be deadly traps. He provided her with contacts in the region who might assist her and promised to continue researching from the university. Armed with the manuscript, her notes, and a growing sense of unease, Emily set off for Eastern Europe. Her journey took her through ancient forests and remote villages, places steeped in myth and superstition. Everywhere she went, she asked about Alaric, carefully avoiding drawing too much attention to herself. In one village, she met an old woman named Maria, who seemed to know more than she let on. Maria spoke of a dark figure who had haunted the region for centuries, a creature of the night who fed on the living. She warned Emily that those who sought Alaric often met tragic ends. Despite the warnings, Emily pressed on. She felt she was on the verge of a great discovery, one that could change the course of history. Her search led her to a crumbling castle deep in the Carpathian Mountains, a place whispered about in fearful tones by the locals. According to Maria, this was where Alaric had last been seen. As Emily approached the castle, an eerie feeling settled over her. The air was thick with foreboding, and the silence was oppressive. She steeled herself and crossed the threshold, determined to uncover the truth about Alaric and his dark machinations. Little did she know, her journey was only just beginning, and the shadows of the past were closer than she could have ever imagined. The castle was a monument to a bygone era, its stone walls covered in ivy and moss. As Emily stepped inside, her footsteps echoed through the empty halls. The air was damp and cold, carrying with it a faint metallic scent that made her uneasy. Her flashlight flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to dance along the walls. Emily made her way through the labyrinthine corridors, her senses heightened by the eerie silence. The manuscript clutched in her hand felt heavier with each step, as if it were a tangible link to the darkness she was pursuing. She found herself drawn to a large, ornate door at the end of the hall. With a deep breath, she pushed it open. The room beyond was a grand library, its shelves filled with ancient tomes and scrolls. A large wooden desk stood in the center, covered in dust and cobwebs. Emily's heart raced as she approached the desk, her eyes scanning the titles on the shelves. Many of the books were in languages she couldn't read, but their age and condition suggested they held secrets long forgotten by the world. As she sifted through the papers on the desk, she found a journal written in a flowing, elegant script. It appeared to be the personal account of someone who had lived in the castle centuries ago. The entry spoke of dark rituals and secret gatherings, of a powerful figure who controlled the fate of nations. Emily's hands trembled as she realized she had found Alaric's journal. The journal provided a chilling insight into Alaric's mind. He wrote of his transformation into a vampire, describing the excruciating pain and the insatiable thirst for blood that followed. His bitterness and desire for revenge were palpable in every word. As Emily read on, she saw how Alaric had used his powers to manipulate kings and emperors, orchestrating wars and plagues to suit his whims. One entry caught her attention. It spoke of a ritual that could grant Alaric even greater power, enabling him to plunge the world into eternal darkness. Emily's blood ran cold as she realized the ritual's description matched the events detailed in the manuscript. Alaric's grand plan was to enact this ritual, bringing about an age of unending night. Her mind raced as she pieced together the implications. If Alaric succeeded, the world as she knew it would be plunged into chaos. She had to stop him. But how could she defeat an ancient vampire with centuries of experience and power? Emily's thoughts were interrupted by a soft rustling sound behind her. She turned, her flashlight revealing a figure standing in the doorway. Tall and imposing, with eyes that seemed to pierce through her very soul, Alaric stood before her. His presence was overwhelming, a dark aura that filled the room with an oppressive weight. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she faced the creature of legend. "Ah, the curious historian," Alaric said, his voice smooth and cold. "I wondered when you would find your way here." Emily struggled to find her voice. "Alaric," she managed to say, her voice trembling. "Why are you doing this? Why plunge the world into darkness?" Alaric smiled, a predatory gleam in his eyes. "Because darkness is where I thrive, my dear. Chaos and despair are the lifeblood of my existence. The world has grown soft, complacent. It needs a reminder of true fear, true power." Emily felt a surge of anger and determination. "I won't let you succeed," she said, her voice steadier now. "I'll stop you." Alaric laughed, a sound that sent shivers down her spine. "And how do you plan to do that, little historian? You are but a mortal, and I am eternal." Emily's mind raced, searching for a way to turn the situation to her advantage. She remembered the manuscript and the clues it held. There had to be something, some way to stop Alaric. She needed to buy time, to think. "Tell me about the ritual," she said, trying to keep Alaric talking. "What do you need to complete it?" Alaric regarded her with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. "Very well," he said. "I suppose it won't hurt to indulge you. The ritual requires a blood moon, the alignment of certain celestial bodies, and a sacrifice of immense power. The final piece is an artifact hidden within these walls, an amulet that once belonged to an ancient sorcerer." Emily's mind raced. She had to find the amulet before Alaric could complete the ritual. But how? The castle was vast, and she had no idea where to start. As if sensing her thoughts, Alaric's smile widened. "You will never find it in time," he said. "But I do enjoy a good game. Let's see how far your determination takes you." With that, Alaric vanished into the shadows, leaving Emily alone in the library. She knew she had to act quickly. Gathering her courage, she set out to find the amulet and stop Alaric's plan before it was too late. The fate of the world depended on her success, and failure was not an option. Emily's heart pounded as she raced through the castle, guided by the clues Alaric had inadvertently revealed. Each step echoed her determination and fear. She finally found herself in a hidden chamber beneath the castle, where an ancient altar stood, adorned with symbols of dark magic. There, amidst the relics of forgotten sorcery, lay the amulet. Just as her fingers closed around it, Alaric appeared, his eyes burning with fury. But Emily had anticipated this. With a swift, desperate move, she invoked the amulet's power, reciting the words she had deciphered from the manuscript. A blinding light engulfed the chamber, and Alaric's scream of rage and pain reverberated through the walls as the amulet's magic consumed him, breaking the dark spell he had woven over centuries. In the aftermath, the castle crumbled into ruins, and Emily barely escaped with her life. The town, freed from the shadow of Alaric's influence, slowly returned to normalcy, unaware of the true nature of their deliverance. Emily, however, carried the weight of her encounter with her. She returned to her studies with a newfound resolve, knowing the world still held many dark secrets. Her encounter with Alaric was a stark reminder of the thin veil between history and legend, and she vowed to remain ever vigilant, ready to confront the shadows that lingered in the forgotten corners of the past. The amulet, now safely hidden, served as a reminder of the power she had faced and the courage it took to stand against it.